Here we go. Awesome. We are officially live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chiropractic Compass podcast, brought to you by the legendary Chiropractor online community. Tonight is a very special night for myself, and Dr. Ed and I were just talking off camera a little bit, and Dr. Ed Osburn is joining us tonight as our special guest. And I said legendary guest. He didn't really like that, but we'll let him. I'm going to let that one sink in for a little bit for you, Doc. But Dr. Ed is out in Canada, and he is a chiropractor who was in brick and mortar practice, and kind of I'll let him share his deeper story, but he went to online marketing and helping docs really find the digital and the virtual world, and I really enjoy his content and what he does for the profession. So please enjoy the show, engage with us, ask questions, because I'm sure many will come up, and if you have questions watching the replay, please drop them in the comments for Dr. Ed or I, and we will get to them as soon as we possibly can. So without further ado, Doc, I would love for you to give yourself a brief introduction while I spread the word of this interview all across Facebook.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, who am I? I guess that's the question. So I'm Dr. Ed Osburn, and I practiced almost 14 years, Alberta, Canada. Had a massive family pediatric practice with my wife, Dr. Karen Osburn, and so we practiced pretty much as straight as you could say it, like you could be in, whenever we talk about, it's so crazy. We talk about straight versus non-straight or subluxation based versus evidence based or whatever it might be, right? We put all these tags on it, but we were pretty subluxation based. Great practice, very busy, very hectic lifestyle, and high volume really was very stressful. It was very stressful for me. And I don't know, honestly, I got to give props to docs who can do it, because it really did wear me down. We were seeing anywhere between 600-700 patient visits a week, and I just didn't know how we could do anything more than that. And I was also running ultra marathons. I mean, this is a long story. I haven't told the story for a long time because it's always about them. It's not about me, but I'll tell it really quickly. Here we go. So I got sick. Okay. So what happened is, for about 6 months, I was just so tired I couldn't get out of bed. But I would literally run with a 30-pound packed CrossFit workout, then go run home. So I was training for ultra marathons, but I couldn't get out of bed, and I was very anemic, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. 6 months later, they finally figure out, okay, after test after test, he's got an autoimmune condition, had severe Crohn's. Didn't have any of the typical symptoms. It's a young person's disease. I was 39. None of these things made any sense. Everyone was shocked. But the next thing you know, a year later, after trying every natural way to help heal my body, had emergency surgery, and then just things went sideways. And now, here I am, sitting in a desk all day on a computer. That was really the impetus to launch a podcast, because I was just like, you know what? I had to be part of this profession still. I couldn't. It was my DNA. It is my DNA. It's who I define myself as. And so when I lost my ability to practice, I lost my identity. And that's when I started these conversations, just like what you're doing with all of these incredible people in our profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love asking docs to share their story, because it does take you back. It transports you back in time a little bit. And it's like, man, that's why I'm here right now. That's why you have those pictures and the ClickFunnels picture behind you. It's like, that's where that comes from, right? It's like you have a whole history that led up to that point, and these little successes along the way and these struggles along the way that got you to where you are now, and you're helping so many doctors to this day. So thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
That's okay. Yeah, that's cool.
But today's topic, before we get into today's topic, I want to do a quick shameless plug, and that is for every student and doctor quick to go to thelegendarychiropractor.com. Check out everything that we offer. We are the go-to site for prospective chiropractic students, current chiropractic students, and even doctors out in the field wanting just a little bit more out of this profession. So without further ado, Doc, we're going to talk all about tonight marketing mindset. Tell us what that means to you. I have some questions for you, but this is, like we talked about off camera, this is very conversational based. I want you to just express to us the importance of it but also where this whole entire marketing mindset comes from for chiropractors and chiropractic students.
I was a great marketer when I was in practice. Okay. And so it translated actually into, it's like business is business, right? So when I became an online marketer, I was, I had a natural tendency to it. However, marketing in your practice and marketing an online business or in business in general, it's a skill set and it can be taught. It's all about the reps. It's just about doing the work. So I just want to preface that. So yeah, I mean, in our conversation before we started, it was really just, you're like, okay, well, marketing mindset, what does that mean? And it's like, I believe that chiropractors, as a profession, we need to start thinking more like marketers and not so much like a chiropractor, right? Start using the terms, the language, the vernacular of a marketer, the systems and the strategies that marketers use to actually create a buying environment versus where we're always going out and getting new. Have you ever heard that word? It's about going and getting new patients, right?
Yep.
It's not. It's actually creating an environment. A good marketer creates a buying experience. Every day I wake up and people message me and they say, Ed, tell me more about how I can work with you. Wouldn't that be incredible if every chiropractor went into their office every day and just people were messaging and emailing and saying, how can I sign up for more care? And that's what I really want to help doctors really understand. Is that if they can shift that mindset to that really just the mindset of that marketer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in today's day and age, it is so critical to understand the digital world of technology and virtual platforms that you can utilize and have an abundance of resources at your fingertips, literally. And so with that being said, can you talk to us a little bit about establishing yourself as a doc, right, in front of a camera for your local community? Is that a good idea or not a good idea? And then we'll get into more of the digital stuff and what they can do there. But is it a good idea to frame yourself as the go-to doctor in your community via internet and camera pretty much?
Yeah, I think there's a time. I think there's a time for that. And I think initially when you start practice, there's a couple different ways. There's two ways of marketing, right? There's initiative marketing, which is a lot of what chiropractors do. Screenings, right? Initiative, meaning they take the initiative, they message people, they ask for referrals. That's initiative marketing. It's going and getting people. Whereas attraction marketing is a little bit of a longer game, but it's a legacy game. It's where you have podcasts and videos and blogs, and you're creating a lot of content and value, and you're creating that buying environment where people are coming to you. You're attracting them to you. So I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying that one is usually where the students, when you're starting out, you're an initiative marketer, right? You go out, you do all the screenings, you do all the marketing, you do the pillars that you're taught by the chiropractic management companies. But there's a time where you have to scale your marketing efforts. Would you rather spend 30 minutes creating a video for social media, or would you rather spend 3 days at a trade show,
right,
and have the same result?
Right.
So there is a time, right, for that shift. And again, like I said, it really just comes down to it comes down to a couple things. It comes down to your time and energy, because when you start to have a very successful practice, you want to keep those pillars of initiative marketing going, but you want to start the attraction marketing. And a lot of doctors don't do that and they give up. I mean, because, it's really surprising to me, how many docs have a hard time just hitting the go live button.
Yeah.
They're so confident in what they know and their skills and adjusting and helping people and conversation of what they do and how they help people heal. But they have a really difficult, like a real confidence challenge when it comes to going live and creating social media content.
Yeah. And I think that it's so important, and you don't have to be great at it, right? And I think as we go in time here and generations go by, the more and more, like I will say it, the millennial generation, right, is wanting that raw, real, authentic person. Like now we're told to share more of our personal lives on our social media and business accounts and mixing business and pleasure. And it's like, you never used to do that, right? Like you never, ever, you were like all business. This is all we do. I'm a chiropractor, boom, boom, boom. And now it's like, oh, here's me with my dog. Here's me hiking. Here's me doing like all this stuff. Here's me on a beach vacation. And that is the new up-and-coming era and where we're at right now in today's day and age of marketing. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And So it's because it creates a very different experience for the person who's coming into your practice. Like I literally had, when I was in practice, I would sit down with people and they felt they knew me because they had listened to my podcast or they had seen a video on YouTube or whatever it was. Like, and I mean, that was three or more years ago. And so we were way ahead of the curve when it came to that. But it gives you that little bit of extra trust because you can have, because there's a couple different, like there's transfer trust, right? And then there's trust that's built.
Yeah.
So in marketing, I mean, what a lot of chiropractors do is they're trying to build trust. Like you have to build your authority. You have to build your expertise. Like you have to show up that way. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's a lot easier to actually transfer trust. And transfer trust is really where things like podcasting, where things like video comes in. It's kind of like having a movie trailer. So, you go and you watch the movie trailer.
Yes.
Right? And you're like, man, I got to go see that new Top Gun film. Like it's like Tom Cruise looks amazing. It's going to be so good. And you're hoping it's going to be amazing, right?
Yes.
And you go and you, the good chance is like, I mean, you have that transfer trust that it's like there and it's a great film based on the trailer you saw. But even taking it to a next level is if one of your friends actually comes to you and says, hey man, I saw Top Gun 2. It was so good. You have to go see it. It was like better than the first one. See, that takes it to the next level.
Yes.
So I think a lot of chiropractors, they have that referral, right? Friends are transferring trust, right? But they don't have that other part of building trust online by having video content and audio content. So podcasting, now because we've been doing this, I could talk forever.
I love it. No, I love it. You're doing great.
Well, because we've been doing this so long with podcasting, right? So we created a podcast course, put it out like over 3 years ago. And because we have so much data now on the doctors who stayed consistent and kept doing it, do you know we can actually show that their practice hockey sticked in terms of how much income they collected when they started their podcast?
Awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah. And they actually show up in the 3 box now on Google, just because they keep updating the content and playing. People are listening to their podcast off of their website. So it's increasing their SEO searchability with Google. Now, don't ask me to explain how that works, but it's happening.
Yes.
So I think it's incredibly valuable, and I think a lot of chiropractors should. I think actually every chiropractor should be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said. So I'm gonna go back a little bit because I want people who are just hopping on. Jim Chester, thanks for being here. Love and appreciate you, man. And thank you for sharing this. If you are interested or want to ask Dr. Ed any questions or myself, drop them in the comments. I'll get them to him as quickly here as we can. But I want to go back real quick to what you said about initiative marketing right as you come out as a student, right? Because I want to hit my students really hard here and say, hey guys, listen, you can have both, right? As soon as you come out of school, you can have the initiative marketing set up where you're going to go to trade shows, you're going to go to fairs, you're going to do screening booths or whatever external marketing that you're doing, but you can also have that attraction marketing going already for you. And through what you said, video content, photo content, blog content, it doesn't matter, any sort of digital asset that you can start creating and building in school is so critical to coming out of school and then, opening your doors. And people are like, I already feel like I know this guy. I've seen all of his stuff. I've seen all of her stuff, and they're trustworthy. They're authentic. They're real. I like what they're talking about. I want to be there, right? It's creating that environment. It's creating that culture, and that's exactly what you were talking about with attraction marketing versus initiative marketing, which I love. I love those two terms. Yeah, absolutely, Doc. Do you want to add anything to that?
I maybe tell a little story.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'll drop a resource too. If you're not following Jesse Elder, you should be following Jesse. So Jesse, he's pretty easy to find online. One of my early mentors, and I fortunately got to work with him when he was less than six figures to work one-on-one with. And he told this story that always stayed with me, and it was about, he called it the Tug House versus the Lighthouse story. I don't know, some people might know this if they follow Jesse, but he talked about, how tugboats will basically get, will go out in the morning and they'll go and find a ship to save, right? And they'll latch onto the ship and they'll pull it back to the harbor to safety. Yeah. And then what they'll do is they'll turn around and they'll go back out to sea and they'll find another ship to save. And they just will do this day in and day out. That's what they do. And I thought about it, and I'm like, man, that sounds so much like chiropractors.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to save people. We're going out and trying to pull people back to harbor and back to safety. And then he made the analogy of, however, there's then the lighthouse. And the lighthouse just stands. And it's shining, and it's got a light. And it actually is attracting, right, is pulling, without actually going out and saving people, back to harbor and back to safety. And he goes, and I would suggest that a lighthouse will save far more many boats, like ships, in its lifetime than any tugboat ever will. And then he said this really interesting thing too. And he said, and it's fun, he goes, and what happens is all the tugboats will get together after the day, and they all get together and they talk about how many ships they saved, and how they're going to get a bigger engine, and how they're going to build a bigger this and bigger that. And I'm like, oh my God, he just described chiropractic.
Yep.
You know, like we all do that. We're like, hey man, I saw this many people, I had this much in collections, this many new patients. Whereas, you know, there is, and I know you've interviewed some of them, whereas there's people who are the lighthouse in our profession,
yeah.
and they just stand there, and they just the light, and they're saving chiropractors, saving lives every day.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's a more, I would argue, it's a more efficient way of going about it, right? And I think that's exactly the point there. Is like they're serving the same purpose, but one is expending a ton of energy, time, effort, and work to get the results, and the other is just sitting there. But also, in reality, you and I both know that it takes a ton of work to just sit there, right? Like, it's like you're not just sitting there, but it does take a lot of work, right? Like it is a lot of work, and I love that analogy. Thank you for sharing that with us. I haven't heard that one yet, so that's awesome. And I also want to touch on the fact that you talked about transferring trust, and you can do that through initiatives, right? Like through external marketing, through screenings,
yeah.
You can transfer trust that way, but not as, I would argue, real and efficiently, I'm going to say that word a lot tonight, efficiently, as doing something virtually, right? And transferring that trust is more, I would think of it like planting an apple seed, right? That saying that's like, the best time to plant a seed was 20 years ago. But,
yeah.
you know, that's the whole point of sales and marketing, is to plant those seeds so that when that person sees that your doors are open, they're like, wait a second. I know that guy. I know that gal. You know, I'm going to go see them. I like what they're doing. That is immediate transfer of trust, and it's osmosis. It's like they're constantly bombarded by your content, and they don't even know it. But when all of a sudden, when they need you or they need a chiropractor, they know you're the go-to person because you've been exposing yourself like that through online media like we are doing right now, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and you and I are speaking to the choir. Like, I mean, like talking to, because you're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way that you can fail right now, Johnny, is if you just say, I quit.
Yeah.
Like you're miles ahead of everyone else who's a student right now.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, but so let's go on. I want to talk about this because this is what comes up a lot when I get asked a lot of times, not only from doctors, but also the student realm, but we're going to mix them both tonight. And so sure. It's that, I don't want to say the word because I hate this word. It's like that passive income, but I want to call it, right, a second income, right? Or a second avenue. Just saying, I'm going to put 100% of my effort here as well, and starting to earn an income from doing such things as digital marketing for not only my practice, like getting your ROI in your practice, or getting your ROI through maybe some other means like a podcast or a membership site or something like that. So what are other ways, like we're talking about tonight, that doctors can go about achieving this or starting to achieve that second stream that they always talk about or that they want, right?
Okay, well, I'm going to back up here 1 second.
Please do.
I think number one is they have to get clear on what they want.
Yes.
Okay. Like if you want to, I remember having conversations with docs and they're just like, hey man, I want to see 1,500 a week. Well, I'm like, man, I can't help you that because that's not what I do. So, or they have to start redefining what success is to them as a chiropractor. So if they hit their, they're seeing a certain number, I'm just going to throw a number out. Like they're seeing 300 a week. They're happy with that. They have, 2.5 days, 3 days in the office, And then they have other time where they can create scalable online content that has an effect of generating income, but also helping people. Great. Okay. It's just another way. Someone I love too, who people I will throw up a resource is, Alex Hermosi. He was in the inner circle with me, and he's got this new concept called, the hybrid practice, or the hybrid gym. Excuse me, not practice, hybrid gym. And so what he's doing is he's helping gym owners who have essentially like a membership, right? Like people come into the gym. It's not unlike a chiropractic practice.
Right.
And then he's also saying, hey, look, you can economy proof your gym by having online content. And he's calling it a hybrid.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant. It really is, because it's the best of both worlds. You have the brick and mortar, but then you have also the online, the ability to create impact, like to actually help people online, right, with digital products and memberships possibly. I don't recommend they do coaching or consulting, because docs are coming to me now saying, coaching, consulting is just as time, like a time suck as being in practice at times. So the whole point is, what I'm saying is, it's about freedom and defining what success is to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I like how you went. I wanted you to kind of go back and touch on that, because having a clear message in today's day and age is so important, especially if you're going to take your presence and your voice and your passions to the virtual and digital world. Because if people are going to listen to you, you got to be clear on what you're going for and who you're going for and what you're standing for and everything like that. And the clearest message that you can have is so important in order for your future success. And I want to touch on something else that you said earlier in the podcast, was like every doctor out there that is, in the brick and mortar and crushing it, you have the smarts, right? Like I want to say this for Dr. Ed and like you have the smarts to create great digital content, and you have the resources around you and in front of you to be doing this kind of stuff. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. No. But here's the thing, like using your smarts to create digital reusable content that you literally just, you plug and you plug and you plug and you plug and you tell everybody you know about it. And then all of a sudden you have this packed funnel, or you have this packed course, or you have this packed webinar, whatever you want to do. And then all of a sudden you can not only give stuff away for free like that, but then once you have an audience, you can start capitalizing on that and monetizing things. So I think it's really important what you said is, like, you got to have a clear message, but you also have to understand you are smart enough to be able to do this, and you're intelligent enough to get your message out to as many people as you possibly can. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to be forward thinking as a profession.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
And you can't rely on someone else to do it. Another chiropractor to start a podcast for you.
Right.
Or to do it for you. I mean, we all, so here's my dream. I had this crazy dream like 3 years ago that we would go to iTunes or Stitcher or now Spotify, and people enter a podcast and they enter whatever topic on health, and they don't have any other option but to listen to a chiropractor speak on whatever that topic is, because we just dominate.
Yes.
This is the time. It's the tipping point right now. We have the opportunity to take over, and yet instead don't get me going. I find as a profession, instead what happens is we end up we're either fighting with each other about what we say or what we shouldn't say or whether we agree on things, or we're just like, hey man, I'm just going to stay out of this. I'm just going to do what I know and stay in my practice, and that's where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And wait for someone else to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's so important to realize what you just said, and that is the very fact that the digital world, it's a good place to be. And you don't always have to do the right thing. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make errors just like you would in practice, right? Just like you would in school if you're a student. So be sure to understand, like, you don't, like we said, with hitting the go live button right away, like the first time, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it sure as heck doesn't have to be pretty. Like, it's like, because I've collected over the course of time, like now I have 2 studio lights, I have, a nice camera, I have my laptop, I have a nice program, and it's like but didn't start like this. This wasn't just like, I wasn't like, oh, I know everything I'm gonna do, you know. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It's completely. Yes, and it's what you do, and it's so important that you just take action. You have a clear message, and you take action on it, and you're able to capitalize on so much more because those opportunities just keep popping up if you actually put yourself out there. If you never put yourself out there, opportunities aren't going to come knocking on your door. That's not how life works. We know that. You and I both know that. So let's go into topic. The next question I have for you, the next topic rather, and that is the future of technology. Where are we going, Doc? What? Not only for chiropractic, but also like just technology in general. You can talk medicine, you can talk computers, software, anything you want. Where are we going here?
You know, it's so interesting you mentioned that, because I was thinking that actually today. Because I've always tried to be like 5 steps ahead of everyone else, right? And I was thinking today, I'm like, where is this going right now? And I'm like, I honestly, the only thing that I know, and I even dabbled in this, like this was like a year ago, is like AI. Like, I mean, everything is going that way. It's almost to the point where it's almost like a little scary, you know, at times. Like, you know, have you ever gone to a website and it starts asking you questions and, you know, it's actually, it's not a person. It's definitely, I see that as what the future is. I know there's a lot of people who have even mentioned, you know, connected with me saying, hey, I want to help doctors initiate some AI technology on their websites, things like that. In terms of like social media and marketing and digital content, I don't think we'll ever be anywhere. It'll get easier, but it's not going to remove the human from the marketing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's always going to be human marketing.
Right.
And I mean, because I don't know about you, but I saw a video the other day too, where it's like even CGI, at some point CGI, like a few years ago, it looked so real.
Yeah.
Now it's so good, it doesn't look real.
Right.
And it's with the filters and all those things, I mean, that people are having on Instagram, like you can instantly tell those things, you can see them right away.
Yes.
Did you do the app where it makes you look old?
I did. Yeah, I had someone else take it on their phone because I was like, I don't need to get hacked right now, not yet.
But that's AI. I mean,
yes.
So here's my whole point. My whole point is that you can't remove the human being from the marketing. Yeah. And that's the one thing that's always going to be, and it's the same thing with our practice. You can't remove, and that's always been a challenge, right? You can't remove the personality, the person that doctor is, their persona.
Yeah.
And that's their best marketing. That's the best marketing tool they have is marketing themselves, like being that person they are.
Right.
So, to say that's, you know, I hope that answers your question. AI,
absolutely.
But you'll never remove, it's just going to get easier. Like Anchor is a lot easier now for podcasting. You don't have to take a $1,200 course like I did 4 years ago.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, I learned podcasting, like what softwares and stuff, to speak on that a little bit, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I learned from like a 12-page PDF that I just downloaded randomly. It was like, start your own podcast. I was like, that'd be sweet. You know, I've seen you do it. I saw Jim Chester do it, and I was like, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. And I was like, okay, now I got to get my message. I got to get my audience, and I got to know what I'm doing here. But like, I learned all of that after the fact of like, here's what equipment to look into. Here's what's free. Here's what's not free. And it was literally like a picture book of a podcast, and I was like, sweet, let's go. And so like that's how simple things, you know, if you keep it simple, it can remain simple. But I want to go back to something that you said. AI for sure, obviously artificial intelligence is I hate to say it, but it probably is going to take over the world eventually. And there are people that, you know, conspiracists that were like, whoa, hey, that's a touchy subject. But AI is very powerful, and AI can be really, really cool when it comes to, you know, projecting healthcare, projecting what people want, right? Projecting, because I'm sure you've done it too, but like artificial intelligence is in Google Home, it's in our phones, it's in Alexa, it's in all of these things. So it's like, it is so important to recognize the power of the technology, but also respect the power of the technology, because you don't want to tread lightly, if you will, when it comes to some of that. Anyways, but you said you can't take the human out of the marketing. And I would argue, Doc, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I would argue that we want to keep as authentic and real as we possibly can with marketing. We want to keep it as humanistic as possible. Because, yeah, you can throw like 10, motivational quotes up on Buffer and just have them pilot for like a month and a half. And, that to me is artificial intelligence working for you to get exposure. But in reality, is there any personality behind that? I would say no, right? And so I want to go back on your point and say, yes, don't take the human out of the marketing, because it's so important that it remains there. And those personalities, those are the people that are going to succeed, though. Would you agree with that, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, you mean like the people that are going to succeed are the ones who are the most authentic and human and real.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But not necessarily raw, but very real on their shares.
Yes. And it's so important that their personality remains in their marketing. And I really liked what you said there. That's the future of tech. I love that. I love that breakdown, because you and I clearly have one in the same mind when it's like, ooh, where am I going with this, right? Like, where's this going? And not only with my podcast, but also, when I get out of school, how am I going to better my practice and my patients' care and everything like that, and keep bringing this digital content to everybody. So let's jump in next to, with the future of with that as the future, AI and personality marketing, right? What is the benefits to the doctor? Let's bring it back to chiropractic. What are the benefits to the doctor for doing that, right? Posting that Facebook Live or sharing that picture of them and their family, or, their vacation or whatnot. What is the benefit to them? What does that do for them?
I think it really, again, it comes back to trust.
Yeah.
Because so even in the last 12 months, I've noticed that there is a huge amount of skepticism online.
Yeah.
And I mean, chiros have always been skeptical to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are, and now, I mean, we used to sit around in circles with marketers and we'd all say that our marketplace was the hardest, but no, chiropractors is the hard. They're the hardest, because you have to usually sell them on about 5 different things before they'll actually buy something.
Right.
You have to sell them on 5 concepts.
Yeah.
Just like in practice, you had to sell people on your initial visit, then you had to sell them on the care, and then, onto the, schedule. So it's the same with chiros. It's funny how we are our own client customer.
Yes.
So to kind of back up on that question, I think for docs, it's really just about, again, I think it's just the trend. So we're always looking in marketing to have a pattern interrupt. Like, how do I get seen? How do I get, how do I stop people in their tracks so they watch my 15 seconds of my video or a minute of my video versus, this or a podcast or a blog, or read it, right? Whereas I think actually by being more human, that will become the pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Being yourself is going to be the pattern interrupt, because so many people are trying to be the sensationalist and trying to get attention over here, swearing online and all that stuff. And I've done it, and, but I mean, it's like just being you and being human, and again, being real, like telling it how it is.
Yeah.
Is going to be the pattern interrupt from now on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. And we've talked a lot to the audience here. We've talked a lot about personality and keeping the humanistic component into your marketing and digital content, and starting digital content. Like, start your digital content, guys. Like, get it out to the people. Everybody needs to hear what you have to say, and you're smart enough to figure it out. In today's day and age, there are so many resources to do so. So let's go into, this is a good question. You're going to like this. Is online content production for everyone?
Yes. You have to define what kind of content.
Yes. Okay. So I want you to break that question down for us, because I think it's a deeper question than we make it out to be. Is it for everyone?
So the answer is yes, with a caveat.
You got it.
Okay, so there is clearly some people who should not be podcasting. I'm just like straight up, they're bad. Like, they suck. And there's no amount of repetition and training that's going to make them they'll get better, a little better, but they'll never be that great at it. And people will just not really listen. But they might be incredible on video, right? So you put them in front of a camera and man, they shine.
Yeah.
Or maybe they can write an incredible post or a blog or like an epic social media post with an image, and it's just so articulate, and the way that they write it compels people to want to read, which is so hard to do these days.
Yeah.
So I think, and I include those all in digital content, all in digital media.
Absolutely.
I just think, like for me, writing is painful. I don't want to do it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
This is clearly what I like. I'm better at just asking people questions. Even video, like I do fancy videos, but what people don't see is my team is actually throwing me one line at a time, and I'll say it, and then they stop the camera, throw me one line, and it takes us hours.
Yeah.
So it's not my zone. I suck.
Right.
So here's a long answer to a short question is really yes. It is for everyone. Don't have an excuse and say that I can't do this, because you can do it. You do it every day in your practice. You have conversations in your practice all day long educating people. You can either write it down, you can either record it into your iPhone and put it on Anchor, or you could just turn on your phone and frickin' do a live or a video. Yeah. So there's no excuses. It's for everyone.
I love that. I absolutely love that answer. I knew that's where you were going to go with it, and I love that you said it is for everyone, because it truly is, and it can be. And I want to make it very clear what Dr. Ed said was that you have to figure out, not like your message, right? You got to be clear on your message, but you also have to be clear on what content you're really, really good at, so you can capitalize on it. Because not a lot of people capitalize on the right thing at the right time, right, in the right moment, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
But if you try different things, and like you said, you're like, I shoot a video and they cut it, and then we shoot again and we cut, all of that stuff. But in the end, it looks phenomenal. But and I'll be in my kitchen recording a video for like 2 hours, and because I don't have a team, so I don't have people to cut it, and I don't have time to go back and edit this. This has got to be a one take, a one shot show, and so I'm kind of doing it for hours trying to get the right wording, and I'm like, ooh, why did I say that there? And it just takes forever. But you got to figure out your right content, and maybe lives aren't for you. But if video is for you, that is pre-recorded video, then do that. If you're really good at editing videos, do that. That's okay. Just get your message out to everybody who needs to hear it. And I love that you said it is for everybody. So with it being for everyone, Doc, and now that they have their content down, right? Like, I'm a blogger, right? I love to blog. I don't personally, but say I am. Say, for example, I love to blog. How do they capitalize on their blogging on social media with the algorithms of Facebook and Google and Instagram and stuff like that? Because if you're writing and you want people to read your content, like you said, it's tough to do. So how do people capitalize on their different styles of content, if you will?
Just be consistent.
Awesome.
So yeah, just design. So pick a zone. So am I going to be a writer? Am I going to be, an audio guy, like a podcaster? Am I going to be a video? So which is it that you're going to create or produce? What zone are you going to create in? And then just be consistent. I wish there was hey man, let me drop this golden nugget on you. But it really is just about having more. So number one, more reps in, right? You'll get better, and you're going to get data.
Yeah.
So you'll post something and it'll just go off the charts. Like, I remember posting something about an autistic boy who came into our office, and we adjusted him. It was just, there was this story to it. It still gets shared, dude. That was 3 years ago.
Wow.
It's over 300 or 3,000 shares now.
Wow.
So you just have to keep posting, and you'll see, well, that clearly worked.
Yeah.
And so you start to actually massage, right, your posts into something that's more along that line, that messaging.
Yeah.
So you basically just get better as time goes by, and you start to pay attention to what people are paying attention to. I wish I could say, hey man, let's beat the algorithm by doing this.
Right.
But the reality is I could tell you that, and then 6 months from now, someone listens to this and it's completely changed.
Right.
We don't know what Mark Zuckerberg's going to do.
Yeah.
So it comes back to just put something out every day or every 2 days or 3 times a week or whatever it is that you have the energy to do.
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of touch on this too, because you talked about it takes you a few hours to create a video, right? So I used to be like that too. So the difference between you and I is I have more money than time.
Right.
Right? So I can pay. You have more time than money.
Yes.
You're a student. So I suggest there's going to be doctors right now. There's going to be the students who are graduating and coming out in practice, and they're going to be sitting there going, man, I have more time right now sitting here trying to fill my practice than I have money to invest in this.
Yeah.
So put the time in, create the videos, and do it until you have the money to have someone else do it for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just wanted to distinguish between the difference between the two.
Yeah. I love that. And I want to bring up something that I listened to on a podcast because, as podcasters, we listen to many podcasts, and that's where we learn from. And I'm sure you listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire, and if you don't, it's with John Lee Dumas, I think his last name is. And he's a phenomenal guy and brilliant mind in entrepreneurship. And so when it comes to that, when it comes to him talking about, creating and consistency, he loves to say, document your way to success, right? Document your way through life, pretty much is what he's saying. And it's like, just put something out there every single day, at least one thing. It doesn't matter if it's a blog. It doesn't matter if it's a video. It doesn't matter if it's a post. It doesn't matter if it's a quote. Put something out there every single day. And then all of a sudden, like you said, now I'm going to circle your stuff around. Like you said, you're like, people will catch on. And then you have that attraction, right? You have that attraction. Now you're building an audience. You're building a following. And then all of a sudden, you can run these split tests, right? And you're like, holy crap, people really like that. I'm going to do that again. Or people hated that. Nobody responded to that. I posted that at like 6 in the morning. I got nothing on it. But I posted something very similar at like 9 p.m. and everybody scrolling their phones before bed or after dinner loved it. And it was like pretty much the same post. So it's like now you got your timing down, you got what you were posting, the content, and it's like now you're starting to run and realize and recognize what people enjoy from you, from your voice, from your originality, from your authenticity. And so document your way to success, if essentially is what I'm saying. Do you have anything to add to that?
So that I took John's course. That was how
no way.
How I started. Yeah, I took John's course years ago, and then
Podcaster's Paradise.
Yeah, that was before. That was when it was just a course before a membership.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And I was one of the first people in his Fire Nation Elite. Did you know he had a Fire Nation Elite?
I did not.
He did group coaching.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I interviewed him once, but I mean he's an interesting cat. And then, that was really interesting. But the secret behind John, the funny story is I remember like listening to John. It was the first podcast I ever listened to and going, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, how hard can this be?
Right.
And that's where I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I remember it was like $1,200 for the course. And I was like, oh my God, it's so much money. But yeah, that Fire Nation Elite was pretty cool. And John does talk about documenting your life. So maybe I'll touch on that too. I'm going to go a little deeper on that. I'm going to go into conversations.
Please.
So there's something I've observed in marketing, and that there's a direct correlation between the number of conversations you have and the amount of impact, but also how much income you will make. So it's no mystery to me that if you continue to do podcasts and you continue to build your network, and you will increase your net worth.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've done 360 some interviews plus a couple other podcasts. So over 400. And it all comes back to content creation. It all comes back to connecting and having a conversation. So each interview is a conversation with someone. And so sometimes it opens the opportunity where we work together in a joint venture, or maybe they, there's like they ask me for some help, or I ask them for it. It's incredible what those conversations will do. Yeah. Now, as a practicing chiropractor in your brick and mortar, they know it's just called networking, right?
Yeah.
It's just having a podcast where you could interview the local authorities in whatever, or experts in your community. It's way more effective than going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting or a BNI meeting.
Yeah.
So there's this unique thing, crazy thing happens, because I said this once, is that if I started a podcast again, or practice again, I would start a podcast, and I would have a podcast studio in my practice.
Awesome.
And I would literally sit there and bring people in, the local chef from the,
yes.
the nice restaurant. I would bring in the local pediatrician. I would interview them. And here's the thing: is it opens that. We talk about trust, builds trust.
Yep.
But it also, they feel like, hey, I feel like you did me a favor here by interviewing. So those doors that would normally close, they open magically.
Yep.
So, and we've seen this with people who are podcasting, like chiropractors specifically that are podcasting, is it does open the doors in their community, but it opens the doors in just, creative doors as well. And just, they feel like, they're talking about what they're really passionate about on a daily basis. So it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually love that idea. And as I'm, transitioning out of student and going to doctor, right, it's like I got to start thinking about, I'll probably associate for a little bit, but then I got to start thinking about build out. And it's like, yeah, will there, it's either podcast studio at home or podcast studio in the office. Like, I can't, this doesn't stop here. Like, this doesn't stop in my little apartment in Atlanta. Like, this goes wide and far. And I love what you said about bringing locals in and building a community, right? And building that camaraderie so that, when you are doing table talk and you're talking about chiropractic, but then the conversation shifts, right? It's like, oh, Susie and I have our anniversary coming up, and, where are we going? And I'm like, oh, go to this place because I just interviewed this person, local chef at wherever, and now you got those connections and you're building bridges for other people, and both businesses are benefiting tremendously from that. And talk about internal marketing. I mean, my God, like I don't think there's anything better than that. So,
dude,
that's awesome.
What's really cool is, so let's say that you interview, I'm just, the local expert trainer, right? Or he's got a gym, and you put his name in the podcast title, right? And then you embed that, you put the podcast on your website.
Yep.
Now, every time someone searches that guy, on Google, your podcast shows up in your website because you interviewed him. They click on it. They go onto your website. Not only are they on your website, because we have this bounce rate, right? Not only do they stick around on the website because they start listening. So now they're on your website longer than 2 seconds,
right.
2 milliseconds.
Right.
But they're hearing your voice.
Yep.
And they have this intimate type of connection with you without ever even walking in your door. So that's the real power of digital marketing and digital content, I would say. It could be a video.
Yeah, yeah. And I do want to say that, like, we throw around the words marketing, we throw around the words advertising, we throw around closing, we throw around all of these, like, different words, right? And whatever label I would argue that you want to put on it, go for it. But what you're doing is you're really promoting you. You're really promoting yourself, your business, what you do for a daily living, right? Like, this is you. Be real with it and call it marketing, call it promotion, call it whatever you want, but just do it, right? Like, come on. Like, I think that, like, we're going to take Nike's phrase here, like, just do it. Just do it, for God's sakes. It drives me nuts because I get people all the time that are like, how are you doing this in school? How are you doing that? When you're getting ready to open up practice and all this stuff. And I'm like, because I love it, right? Like, I love interviewing people like you who are people I've followed forever. And it's like, now that I have a time to sit down with you and pick your brain a little bit and other people get to benefit from this, man, how cool is that? Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, one of the things too, and you touch on that word close, because I hear this often. Docs are like close and sales, and I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a marketer. We're all marketers, man. We're born marketers, and I market to my 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, just to get him to go to bed. Like, I have to do that. So I mean, but what I did is, because I had a real problem with that word, a real challenge with the word too, was the word close. I got to close someone. And I just changed it to the word yes.
Love it.
So if the more yeses I can get, right? So there's a first yes, which is like, just get someone to maybe like your stuff. That's a yes, right? Get someone to message you and open a dialogue and get on a call. That's a yes. Like, the more yeses I could get, eventually down the road, I might get a yes where someone wants to work with me.
Yeah.
And I think it would be the same in practice. You just want to have people, take them through a specific process, which is not necessarily saying I'm going to close the deal, but it's like, I just want them to agree with me and say yes.
Right. Yeah. And especially, like, I would argue in the chiropractic realm of things, we typically have the patient's health and well-being, you know, in the forefront of our mind.
Right.
Like, this is, you know, we're doing this kind of for you kind of thing, but also we do want to make the sale, close the sale, have them say yes, because we still have to put a roof over our heads, we still have to pay bills, and we still have to feed a family, right? Like, these are basic necessities that you can't ignore. So I like what you said. We're all marketers. Innately, we're all marketers, and that is the truth. So I want to tie this in for my student listeners out there, Doc. So with students, right? How can they start? What would you be? And I know you'll probably say just start creating something, but like for a student specifically in chiropractic school, right? What can they do to start now to be more successful, not only in marketing but possibly in practice and community outreach when they get out of school? What can they do now?
I think they need to do more than just shadow doctors.
Awesome.
Have you ever, like, I know that's what I did. I mean, and that was pretty impressive. I would go and I would shadow. I would see how the doctors are like how they are, you know, running their clinic.
Yeah.
Or running their practice. I think they need to go further than that. I think they need to actually start shadowing people who are really good at business.
I love it. Yes.
So, yeah, like, if there was one thing that I wish I had known, because when we hit the ground running when we started practice. We had people lying. We had like 30 new ones the first week, which to us, that was a lot.
Yeah.
And so if there was one thing I wish I had known, it was how to run a better business and how to actually, what to do with money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know.
Right.
And I had a management company, I had all those things, but they never really did teach me that stuff. And so if there was one thing that I could say to, you know, students is start following some people who are insanely good. And there's some chiropractors, by the way, who are really, really good at business people. Yeah. And start following those people. Yeah. And shadow some of them is what I'm saying, as well as shadowing chiropractors in their clinics.
Right. That's a great point. If I were to take like a hat of 50 things and put, you know, 50 things into a hat of what you would have said, that is not what I would have picked out at all. That's awesome. So if you didn't hear that, go shadow somebody who's really good at the business aspect of things, right? No matter if, I would argue, no matter if that's running a practice and being really successful in practice, but also being really successful at their books, and then also, you know, maybe shadowing people who are good at online marketing or digital content and creation and stuff like that. Start shadowing all of these different people, and then when you come out, I think you'll come out with an arsenal of a tool belt that's like, man, I'm ready for everything, right? It's like, and you're not, right? There are still those thousands of things that you're not ready for because you don't know what you don't know, but you're also way more prepared than anyone else that's coming out at that time because you've taken the proper steps to get there, and you've gone above and beyond just shadowing a doc just to see that their practice runs smoothly and efficiently. Like, get in with their books, understand what's going on with that. And I love that point, Doc. Thank you for sharing that, because that's something I'm actually going to look into doing, because I think it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I shadow, like I was telling you off camera, was like, you know, I have these virtual mentors, right? And I have these people that I follow on here who are really good at the business, but you only see a certain side of them on the internet, right? We all have our different hats that we wear, if you will. And so it's like you only give as much as you give on the internet. But at the same time, you know, it's like, hey, maybe I go visit you out in Canada. Maybe I go visit Dan Bai for Clothes for Chiro. Maybe I go visit some of these powerful names in chiropractic that are doing business right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What you see is not always what is actually going, like what behind the scenes. Kind of like I showed, like it's a mess back here.
Yep.
Like some people, they look like they're incredible. They have it all going on in their business. But if you looked at the back, at the back, it's actually not the case.
Right.
So I just would say, yeah, definitely. One of the most valuable things I've learned is to shadow people who really, really know their business. And they love knowing, like they don't shy away from the numbers.
Yes.
Because I see this with a lot of chiropractors too, is they don't even want, like you want to talk about, you know, you ask them about their numbers, they may not know their numbers, or they don't even want to talk about the money.
Yeah.
Like, so it's really I would say almost like a detriment to a lot of chiropractors' success is the more people they see, but they're like, how come I'm still so broke? Is because they never really had that business mentoring.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree with everything you said there. I want to go into it's kind of a wrap up, like just everything. Sure. We've been going for 55 minutes, and I know thank you so much, Doc, again for being on the show. It's been so much fun, just picking your brain, and that's the cool part about this. So I want to make this very clear. I love saying this to people because when people ask me, they're like, how did you figure out your message, right? How did you figure out what you were going to go for? What was your niche? I was like, I didn't have one. I'm going to be frank with you. Like, I didn't have a niche. Like, I didn't know what I was after. I had no idea. When I read that 12-page PDF, I had not the first clue what opportunities were going to come at me, as well as what, like, audience was going to be attracted to what I was saying and what I was putting out there. But I want to say this. There are 7 billion people, over 7 billion people on this planet, and 4 billion of them have access to the internet. So with those statistics in mind, right? Like keep those statistics in mind. The growth potential, if you want to talk business, right? The growth potential for online digital marketing and or digital content creation is unlimited. It is the roof the roof doesn't exist. The roof doesn't exist and people need to understand that. So if you have a message, if you have a passion, if you have something that you think other people would like to hear, just start creating, right? Start doing something that gets people to be attracted to what you're saying and the message that you're delivering. Doc, please add to that because I know you have a lot to say.
I think the only thing I would add is like we talk about. Well, so there's 2 things. So number one is a lot of doctors that I do meet they're like, they have the big vision. They're like, man, I just want to go, I want to be everything to everyone.
Yes.
Right. So I want to hit the whole 4 billion. And so then they go, well, we're going to distill it down into a niche. So instead of finding your niche, because we used to talk about it, you got to find your niche. How about, create your niche?
Yeah.
Like really just like decide what it is that you're going to talk about. Like, what is it that you're passionate about? And then just execute, and you're basically going to create your entire, like your niche. Like, even look at my niche. I mean, like chiropractors. I mean, what is there, like 70,000 of us? It's the smallest niche on the freaking planet right now. It's like, and then not everyone even speaks English. So, I mean, but it was like, no, I'm going to just put this podcast out and I'm going to start creating online content and digital courses.
Yeah.
And by doing that, I created a niche where there was none. Now there is other people in that niche, but so to back up, create your niche, create your own marketplace. Don't be as concerned about finding it. Cause if you decide you want to find a niche, you could be stuck just, out there looking all the time. And then you end up doing something that you hate.
Yes, absolutely. And when I actually first started getting into podcasting and getting into the digital world, I started reading a lot, right? Once you're like really passionate about something and you didn't really realize it before, you become obsessed and you're like, holy cow, like this is a whole world that I didn't know about. but I'm up until 4 a.m, learning about, how to create a ClickFunnels or how to create a podcast or, what the next up and coming thing is in tech. And so with that being said, I actually wrote down before we started the show when I was coming up with like a couple questions for you, was that you have to create, when you bring your message and your passion to the public, you do create your own niche. You do create that. And it's like you said, and what I was experiencing when I first started, and people were like, niche. And I was like, what? What does that even mean? And then I got into like micro markets, right? Like, and they're like, you need to figure out your micro market. I'm like, what? No, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I don't even know my macro market. Like, let's start there, right? And it's like, but it's okay not to know who you're talking to at first, as long as your message is clear. People will be attracted to you if you're promoting it the right way, if you're creating the right content for those people, and people will be attracted to it. You talk about 1,000 true fans and whatnot. Like, people will be attracted to what you have to say, and it's so important to remember that, because that's what gets people started. No matter if you're in brick and mortar practice, if you're in chiropractic school, or if you're a digital marketer because you follow Dr. Ed and I tagged him in this post and you're watching this right now. Like, you can do anything with the technology and the resources that we have at our fingertips. So yeah. Any closing remarks, Doc, that you want to, that's our show. And here are my show notes in case anyone's curious. Like, I mean, it's awesome, but I'm going to go back and watch this over and over and over again, because I'm never going to stop learning from legends like you who are in this profession and in the digital marketing space for chiropractors. But do you have any closing remarks that you want to add?
Well, I'll leave it with this. Yeah. I'll leave you with the meaning of life.
I can't wait. I've been waiting for this my whole life.
So I believe the meaning of life is creation, evolution. So two different things. Creation, meaning like you constantly need to be creating to be fulfilling your highest self and highest purpose. I think that's why creating digital content is so attractive to chiropractors, because we're producers, but we're also creators that are in our heart, in our soul. Evolution, or if you don't like the word evolution, change. We have to keep changing. We have to keep adapting and changing all the time. So if a doc is listening to this, or even a student, and they feel stuck or they feel like they're not growing, it's probably because they haven't learned something new. That's change. Yes. And that's why, digital content, online marketing, podcasting is why all these things are so fun, is because you're learning something new and it's creating something new. And that's the meaning of life. And that's why it's so great. Cool.
I love it. I can't, I'm going to be like, whoo, I know the meaning of life. When someone asks me now, I'm going to be like, yep, there it is. And how can people get in touch with you, Doc, and or what are some action steps to take to further engage with what you're putting out to the people?
So I have Dr. Ed Osburn, OSBURN, Dr. Ed Osburn, all one word, .com. So they can head there. I think so the chiropracticphilanthropist.com, they can listen to a podcast or two. And then also, I think it's the chiropractors laptoplifestyle.com or chiropractorslaptoplifestyle.com. But here's the thing is, if you head to dredosburn.com, you can actually check out how I actually help people with online business. But, awesome. Or just message me on Facebook, for gosh sakes.
but get the right Facebook account, because I've had troubles with that, as you know. So yeah, funny story to close it out here. I actually reached out to Dr. Ed, I think season 1 of the Chiropractic Compass podcast, to his old Facebook profile that I had followed, because you and I, like I said before, have been friends for probably 6 or 7 years on Facebook. And I reached out to your old profile that, something happened there and got hacked or whatever. And you were like, I don't check this anymore. I'm so sorry. I was like, crap. Like that was unbelievable. But I'm so glad that we got in touch, Doc. I'm so glad that you're on the show. I am so happy that we were able to sit down, converse. And please, if you are watching this right now live, please share it, like it, love it. I don't care what you do, but please get this message out to the people. They need to hear it. They want to hear it. And if they don't know they want to hear it, well, they do. So with that being said, head to thelegendarychiropractor.com for all of your chiropractic needs when it comes to virtual and digital content pretty much is what we talked about tonight. We got blogs, we got vlogs, we got podcasts, we got everything that you can ever imagine. So we call it the virtual one-stop shop for everything chiropractic, and that is thelegendarychiropractor.com. Head there now. Dr. Ed, thank you so much. Also head to dredosburn.com. That's DREDOSBURN.com, and it's right there on the screen for you guys. So please head there now, learn to work with Dr. Ed, and I know you do a lot of inner circle work and coaching, and you also do now you're doing a 2-day intensive. Soon it's gonna be like a whole month intensive with Dr. Ed here. You went from 1 day, now you're at 2 days, and then we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I know we are.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to acknowledge, before you sign off, I just want to acknowledge you, because I know what it takes to create content like this. I know how much it takes to put yourself out there as well. So I just want to acknowledge you, and I feel like, man, if even a fraction of the students have half of the amount of passion you have for our profession and putting, valuable content out there to others, then we're in good hands as a profession.
That means so much to me. That means more than you could ever imagine you knowing. But thank you for those kind words. Thank you for those tuning in tonight. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the comments. I love you all, and I appreciate you. This is the Chiropractic Compass Podcast, signing off with Johnny Reuter and Dr. Ed Osburn. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.